So when this house was first built and we moved into it, my brother-in-law, I'm going to put in an extra shot here as I talk about this. My brother-in-law used to live a half a mile down the road, but there is a tree in the way. And also at the time, this Starlink satellite used to be at my brother-in-law's house. So he would get internet via Starlink. And then we had another one of these at his property beaming the internet to here, which then we would get internet. And I got to tell you, it was actually really good. At the time, it was the first time I'd ever dealt with this kind of internet beaming system. And despite having a tree in the way, and we had those satellites pretty much locked in, and that's all it took. And we had internet to the entire house because of it. So as of last year, my brother-in-law sold that property, and then we just took over his Starlink account. Since we are in the boonies and Starlink is the fastest internet you can get in this kind of situation. So right now this satellite is pointing more this way, but once I get the other satellite set up on the shed, I'm gonna turn this a little bit so that way it's line of sight and they're pointing right at each other. So that's the plan, and that's how I'm gonna get internet to the shed without having to dig a trench and run Ethernet the entire way. So yes, we did luck out that we already had this in place and that it's already wired into the house, which was definitely not fun to get set up because I had to go into the attic and crawl around and get that Ethernet cable through. So I'm glad that's over with. And now all I have to do is set it up in the shed. So yeah, we are very fortunate that we didn't have to start at square one when it came to the internet, and that we already had these satellites. We just got to hook them up. But obviously there is no power to the shed because obviously on the other end, it requires power. But one step at a time, I'm going to get the satellite installed and then we can go from there. All right, folks, in the interest of doing everything correctly now, so I don't run into any issues later, I will have to be taking out most of these 2x4s that span the length over this, where the ceiling will be attached to, because somebody commented, thank you for your comment, by the way, whoever commented that I'm going to need to put 2x6 pieces of lumber that span all the way across. Because they are 10 feet across, I'm going to need something that is more robust and will not eventually start to sag because of the weight of the eventual drywall that'll go up for the ceiling. So the reason I said most of these I will have to take down is that the ones on the end here that are flush with the new 2x2 furring strips, those don't need to go anywhere because I still need something to hammer the additional 2x6s into it. And having that 2x6 sistered up against it like this will also have the necessary lumber for the drywall to screw into at the very ends. So yeah, all of these I'm gonna have to get rid of. I mean, I'm not gonna throw them away, I'll keep them. I'm pretty sure I'll need some big long 2x4s at some point for other projects around the house, but it is still kind of a bummer that I've gotta just take them all out. You never wanna do something like that because it's costing me money, because obviously getting the 2x6s in place of the 2x4s costs money, and it costs time, and time is money as well, because now I have to remove those 2x4s. How dare you, stepladder? And put the 2x6s there instead. Oh well. But another thing I'm gonna have to do, since these are gonna be 2x6s, you can see these 2x4s had that 30-degree angle, and it was just good enough of an angle that it didn't interfere with the roof. But 2x6s are obviously going to be taller. So I'm gonna have to do probably a 45, maybe even more of an angle than 45 degrees. So I'm gonna start with 45 because that's, I think, what my miter saw maxes out at is 45 degrees. So I might have to get creative in being able to make these 2x6s fit in this space. All right, so let's start with removing the 2x4s that I will no longer need. And of course, it actually didn't take me as long as I thought it would to remove the 2x4s. But this corner here gave me some trouble because there wasn't a lot of real estate to deal with. And then this little miter saw is for 2x4s. So I had to do some pretty tricky things to get both ends
cut. So that was interesting. So then I ended up just using a jigsaw instead. And then I just placed them where they needed to go. I started with the ends again, because I don't have a lot of room on those ends. So I started with the hard parts first. And then nailing them in was, cut and dry. I just need to nail them in. But man, swinging that hammer that many times up high above my head, it is taxing. Then I decided to install this bar to hold the satellite dish, and I installed it on the side instead of the roof because it gets pretty windy here sometimes. So I wanted the shed itself to block the wind.
Alrighty, so here is where the Ethernet cable comes into the shed. And in fact, this is where everything is going to converge, because in this corner is where the rack will be located. So all the components, the HDMI cable that's going to be connected to the eventual projector, that's going to snake around and go down. All the speaker wire are going to snake around up and go down. Now I say up and down because, this is where one of these surround backs will be eventually. And I could just go straight across, but if I do that, this corner right here, any corner, I'm going to have to drill a hole like diagonally or some weird stuff just to snake that speaker wire through. Whereas I've already got a cavity up above the 8-foot ceiling that I can snake wire through and around, and I'm not going to have that big of a deal. Because in this corner, there is a little gap behind this 2x6 that I can feed speaker wire through, and then I'll drill some holes up through these two studs and have everything come down. So between these studs here, this is where all the action is going to happen. There's going to be so many speaker wire and other wires going to this section. So I've got this massive 500-foot spool of speaker wire. It's from Monoprice. 14 gauge. I could get away with 16 gauge, but I just like how 14 is more robust. Some may even go with 12 gauge. I don't know, but in a shed this small, it's kind of overkill. But if you want to go with 12 gauge, just so you're absolutely sure that you've got the durability you want, go for it. So yeah, big old spool. I've got some masking tape so I can label the speaker wire. So when it all converges in the corner, I know which speaker wire is going to which speaker. Haha. And I got some wire strippers and my Sharpie for labeling. But my wife is out and about, and I told her to pick me up some staples, because as I'm snaking speaker wire up above the ceiling joists and the studs and everything, I just want to nail some staples as I go, so that way they can stay there and they're not going to like move around or anything. So that way they're locked in place. So yeah, I think I'm just going to start drilling a bunch of holes and snaking a bunch of speaker wire. Hooray.
And thus began the holes being drilled upwards. That's never easy. Anything above your head is not easy. And then it's just a matter of snaking everything through the staples that I installed in the lumber as well, and just getting all that length of speaker wire strewn about throughout the holes and going to that little corner there. Not too shabby, all things considered.
Alrighty, folks. We are all wired up. See the dangly wires for the front sound stage. And then it all goes up and over to the corner. This is where all the action's happening. 11 speaker wires in total for the 7 ear level speakers and 4 height channels. We got everything all prepped, ready to go. There you have it, folks. Yeah, buddy. Pre-wired. Obviously, that's not everything. I still need to do an HDMI cable for the projector That's going to be in the ceiling in the back. I think next step is going to be, I'm going to give my buddy a call, Tom, to put in the electrical. Holy cow, we're at that step. Pretty cool, man. And that's all she wrote, my friends. Yeah, putting in the 2x6s in the end. Man, I'm glad I did it because I can already tell it's just so much more rigid. So thanks again for whoever commented on that and called me out on it. Because, you know, this is the first time I've done this particular kind of thing where it's just a tiny little shed. Because the big shed theater that I did on my brother-in-law's property a few years ago, the shed itself was big enough and tall enough where it actually did have an attic space. So there were times where I needed to get up there, and I could because it was really tall. It was a very tall shed. But this, I'm gonna have to do everything beforehand because yeah, there's a roof pitch, but yeah, I gotta plan everything out ahead of time because once that ceiling drywall goes up, there's not much I can do after that. And yeah, I've got that internet beam satellite installed, which is very cool. And I've got the Ethernet cable coming down and speaker wire is now here. So I think that about does it for this episode. Thanks for joining me again. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. I'm really excited to actually have power to this shed. So looking forward to that. It's not so much a matter of budget right now because we do have some money this month to be able to do that. But it's more of a weather thing because obviously you probably want to deal with electricity when it's not raining. And even currently it is raining outside, which you can't see, but it is, I promise. So weather could definitely become a factor as far as how quickly the electricity can be installed. As always, this world is crazy as it is, so it only makes sense to be kind to everyone you come in contact with. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience them and bring friends along. And of course, physical media for life.